Hey everyone, welcome to this session about advanced Microsoft project techniques, scheduling and resource management. I have to say this is one of the most hot topics in this conference, or any conference for that matter, resource management. We have here, I'm very excited to have Jax Gupil here. I probably knew Jax even before he knew me. I used to attend his MPUG presentations a lot. So an avid presenter, organizer of fun runs and that kind of stuff at conferences. Unfortunately, because this is virtual, he's not really doing anything this time. If you are so willing, you could probably run at your end. So anyway, all kidding apart, I'm very excited to have him here to present this session. He is he's the president of PPM Works Inc. So with that, take it away, Jax.
Great, Prasanna. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I want to say good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, depending on where I have the pleasure to speaking with you. Really excited here. Prasanna and team have done a great job. This Project Virtual Conference is obviously one of a kind right now. We hope to do this in the future, but and hearing some great feedback from our customers, from different clients, from the MPUG community, and Twitter and all the social media. So great work, everybody out there. So as Prasanna said, definitely love to get involved. Today we're going to be taking a look at some great topics, and we're really excited to have you here today. We are a gold Microsoft certified partner here at PPM Works, and we really partner with organizations like yourselves and work at speaking sessions, hands-on labs, and training. But in addition to that, we've been selected, and there's only 8 others in the world that are helping out with the PPM CIE. For those that aren't familiar with that, we'll talk a little later about that, but really it's a customer immersion experience. So all this great stuff you're seeing from all these experts today throughout the 24-hour period, literally we go in there and you can use the system, actually bring in a system, you can key away at it and do all this great stuff. So it's really good. Now, Prasanna and I have that sort of going back and forth. We do like to lighten up the mode and lighten up the mood here. So we always start with a joke or some sort of get out, stretch around, and move yourself. Because if you've been on since the wee morning or the evening, depending on your time zone, with the kickoff and the great announcements that have been there, sitting around for quite some time. So one of the questions, we sort of get into, put yourself in a role, project manager, executive, or wherever you want to fit. And this little comic does it well. So if you're on the left-hand side and you're a project manager and you're gung-ho and you bring that project and you say, well, I finished the project on time and on budget, you got smiles, you're super excited, and that manager looks at you right across the desk and says, well, that means I've given you too much time and too much money. Now I can hear the chuckling coming across the lines, but in all seriousness, there is this give and flow, and what we're taking a look today in this session is techniques on how to schedule and look at your resources as far as resource management within the tool construct. We're not going to talk high-level concepts today. We're literally going to get in the tool and start looking at this. My motto is health and family first, so hopefully you have a great day today and go and make someone smile. We already talked about ourselves, so I'm going to skip through this. If you haven't checked out Scott Clausen's workshop on workflow, great session today. Go ahead and take a look at that on one of the recordings. So today, jumping in here, 2 feet first, and we're going to talk about time-saving techniques. We're going to look at what you can use today or later this week. You always can reach out to Prasanna and team or me directly if you have any other questions. I'm going to be doing a lot of things, so I've created some slides so you can refer back to it. I'm going to be clicking, and this is not a click through while I'm doing it. Let's grasp the concept. You can always come back to this recording and run it again to get the actual steps as we go through. Now, reviewing scheduling and resource best practice techniques. Again, the day-to-day on the job, what are you doing for not only scheduling and tracking, but looking at those resource constraints. So let's pull up a few views, some that we've used for many, many years, and some of the new ones that are out there, and talk about those. We also want to answer any of the questions that you have on scheduling, resource challenges that are out there, and again, whether it's tool-centric or process, we'll be more than happy to answer those through a moderated session. So There's a discussion area that you folks are aware of. Go ahead and just pop in your answers there. Prasanna and team will be looking at those, and then we'll reserve 10 minutes at the end of this session to go through all those. Excellent. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. We're excited, and we really want to jump into this. The agenda, like any good project manager, we want to stay on task and on time, so we're going to do our best effort to stay within the confines of the next 5 techniques that we have. Now, you could boil these down, right, and go across all your checkered past hours of project management, portfolio management, and resource management, and it's tough to come up with just 5 techniques. We took a look over the years and really came down to what is the quick reference guides that we create for our clients. What are the blog posts and support requests that we get? And we put them in these 5 categories. So viewing and resolving schedule conflicts, and we're actually going to talk about resource over allocations in these 2 techniques as well. Talk about the scheduling updates and planning, and then the schedule checklist. This is really where we're going to spend some good time on scheduling, but also, making sure without a schedule, we sort of need some resources if we want to get labor hours or get down to that level of detail for time or task management. Recognizing new tasks. So you're sitting there in a project management and you're entering in these tasks, and you might have a change request, or you might want to decompose it a bit. How do we do that? And what are the best tips and techniques to do that within the tool? The last 2, one of my favorite is the organizer. We'll talk about that. Now, some of you might say, yeah, I got it. I know what the organizer does. Do you use it? Are you recopying different views and the likes? And we're going to talk heavily today about the standalone tool itself, but you also, in Project Online, Project Server, etc., there are some views that we'll show today, but also in other sessions that's really going to talk about the portfolio management side of resource management and entering in time on a server level. Lastly, everybody likes the tool, but ease of use. So what's the easiest thing? Where do you click? We'll talk about a quick reference guide, or sorry, a quick access toolbar up top, and we'll really get into it. So by now, you're getting comfortable, you're ready for these tips, you're ready for these tricks. But unlike some of the other sessions that are out there, you guys get a quiz, guys and gals. All right, so here we go. You're gonna have 7 questions over the next 45 minutes. And I'm confident by the end of this session, I'm gonna be able not only to answer these, but also bring these questions and these solutions back to our organizations. So we're going to tailor these questions, and we're going to really go in on those different techniques as we go through it. So things that are going to pop out around scheduling conflicts. How do you copy views? How do you look at those resource information when we're talking about that? Tasks to be complete. Simple things like that, folks. You may be doing it, and you might be doing it for 10, 15 years your way. Is that the correct way? Is that the easiest way to do it? And that's what we're going to talk about when we get into some of this. Orphan task. This is where I look around the virtual room and say, what the heck is an orphan task, and who knows what it is? How can it hurt us as good project or resource managers out there? We're going to talk about that. And then remove all constraints. And then what is the biggest you must do when we talk about scheduling? That's really an open question for all of us during the Q&A. I have a few answers up my sleeve too that I'll share with you here. So the first technique that we're going to be getting into is really viewing and resolving schedule conflicts. So resource over allocations in your project, or the actual schedule conflicts themselves. We're going to be getting into here, taking a look again at some slides to set it up, to frame what we're going to look at. Now, within the tool set came this great tool called the Task Inspector. And the Task Inspector, for those folks that haven't used it, is a really great tool. It shows everything you need, okay, at the Task Inspector level, and it melts it to say, where are my over allocations? What can I do on this task? And what can I do next if I need to resolve any of those over allocations? And if you take that Task Inspector and you melt it with a great tool called the the team planner now it's called, then you can help managers visually manage the project level resource assignments. You can give managers a complete picture of all those assignments for this given project. We'll also be able to drag and drop between different tasks, between different resources. So we have a quadrant here, and we're going to have assigned tasks and unassigned tasks, right? Scheduled tasks and unscheduled tasks or non-scheduled. So that will get in there. But this is a very nice view. It's a resource-centric tool that you can visually highlight all your resource over allocations, gives your managers different options, okay? They can manually resolve it by just dragging and dropping, or they can rely on the tool itself, left-hand side, Task Inspector, and go ahead and say, mirror, mirror, Task Inspector on the wall, right? What should I do first of all? And you hit that button and off it goes and makes your schedule resolve itself. Well, is that the correct way? Is that how you want it to do it? We'll talk about that. And you can always remember run scenarios. The multi-level undo is your friend here when we're talking about scheduling techniques as well as resource. Project statusing. We'd be remiss to not talk about how do you get in and actually status the project. Again, whether it's on what version you're on, of seeing it. Now there's a built-in status field, and what you can very quickly do is just group by status. And you can see that, and then what we can do next is you can go ahead and create different indicators, whether it's on status or whether it's on slippage. And since we're talking about scheduling and resources, what are the top 3 things that we really want to see in projects? Well, an indicator. So a slippage indicator. Are we slipping, meaning finish date potentially? You could say the start date. Is that going to be in jeopardy of missing that start date? And it's really up to you folks. We're going to take that graphical indicator too. You're seeing the end, and you can take it and move it all the thresholds, all the different formulas, excuse me, and move it very quickly with a couple quick buttons. Now you also want to, when you take a look at the schedule indicator, you might say, well, how do we do that? Well, you take a look at the recording and you're going back, I'll open it up so you can see it, but pause here, okay? At this time right now, take a look at the schedule indicator on the next slide here. And this is what we did. It's very simple. All we did is we took the finished variance, we threw it in a custom field that we call date slippage, all right? And then what we did is we put a threshold in. Very straightforward, very simple. The outcome is very powerful, not only in colors for all of our users, but also us. It can be dynamically driven there. So again, focusing more on scheduling. What about an indicator for resources? You could do the same thing, okay? Task path analysis was another feature that came out that some folks like and some folks sort of shy over. You can click on a task and you can actually highlight different things. But did you know you can also see tasks and other things that are coming here just with the click of a button? So I want to show you, make sure you see some of those today as well. Now, we're talking about scheduling in this broader scene, reports as well. So when you get in, you start taking a look at those out-of-box reports. There are plenty, and there are some great ones, especially the resource management ones that are built out of the tool, and that's the resource over allocation. So I want to jump into the tool. Again, we have plenty of slides, but let's get into some tool here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the task inspector, the resource planner, and a few other things. So as I switch over here, you're going to see Microsoft Project Professional. We're going to start everybody in a Gantt chart, very simple Gantt chart that we can see, and we can actually see the WBS. We can see some great information. And as I go ahead and just scroll up to the top, we also can see some red information here. And red in this case is simply just critical path. We've gone in and highlighted some of that stuff. Well, we have this client session, and we may or may not know if this task is in jeopardy. But on the left-hand side, since we are talking about resource management and overallocation, we have an indicator, a direct indicator. And what we like to do is really go in here and try to figure out what to do. Now, it tells you can right-click and you can do your fix in Task Inspector. I'm a right-clicker. We train folks. I tell folks over and over, I like the shortest path to the quickest outcome. You could also go up here in the ribbon, the task ribbon, and go ahead and select your task inspector. Whichever you do, as you do that, you're going to see it in the left-hand side. Now, this is a really great tool, and this is what we're going to use to go ahead and reschedule some of these tasks. But before we do that, let's go in and take a look and figure out what's really going on with this task. So what we can do, we talked about, is open up the resource planner. Now, some of you folks are going and saying, well, where's that resource planner? I remember where it is. Down in the right-hand area, on the bottom, there's a quick ribbon, okay? And there's 5 or 6 icons. What you're going to do is go down to the bottom, and in the middle, right there, is something called the Team Planner. And when you launch that Team Planner, it's not only going to bring up the Team Planner, but it also is going to keep and retain that Task Inspector that we have. So now you have that go-to view for your resource managers out there. All right. And some of you folks might say, well, I've never really used this in this capacity. I'm interested. I'm listening. And here's why we use this tool. One, we can see that we have over allocations being read, but you also can see that information on a natural or helpful tool saying, hey, let's do something about this task. And when we take a look at our resource here, we can do out of the box things. This resource is over allocated due to other tasks, and it's showing us that Siobhan is over allocated for this task. Let's let project work for us. If we go ahead and click our reschedule task, let's see what it actually does. And what it will do is it pushes everything over, and now no longer have an over allocation for that project in particular. Now, you also could take these and drag and drop and do some other very quick and very easy. Now, we said also the task path. Well, a lot of folks are used to looking at the task path, okay, in a different mindset. Well, if you come in here and look at format when you're in this team planner, there's a bunch of styles here. And what we like to call out is you have these fill styles, okay? And you have these gray bars, but you could also create different colors for all your external, your lates, and etc. Really highlight anything that it happens to be late or not. So that's a very easy and quick view to see things. Now, again, resource over allocations, when you're taking a look at here, you may be looking in some other areas. One example area would be in a resource usage view. And we're going to go ahead and open that up, the resource usage view. And when you go ahead and open that resource usage view and you still click on your task, this is where that friendly task Inspector is remaining with us. So you can see that this transcends all of our different views at a resource level, but giving us something to do at a task or tactical level to reduce those over allocations. Okay, so here we do have this other session. Again, you could go in here and notice what it does. It's saying, hey, we're also offering this great tool called the Team Planner. So what we want to do is show you another view, standalone, look at your resource over allocations. How do you recognize them? And then what do you do if you have resource over allocations? So you either change those here, or you can add additional resources to your different tasks. Now, when you're in these different views, okay, you click on client sessions, and whichever view that you happen to be going to, so such as the Gantt chart, you feel comfortable in there, and that's where you want to add different people, it takes you exactly to that nice task there. And in this case, we talked about maybe crashing the project. So we're going to add or assign different resources. We're pulling up the assign resource. We're going to go ahead and grab Emma Kate here, and we'll also do Paula. We're going to go ahead and assign these people. And when you go ahead and assign these people, again, the tool is doing is it's driving and telling you, hey, do we want to increase it? What do we want to do with this? And as you go ahead and do that, you reduce your over allocations, and you're going through the process. So again, manually or driven by the tool in doing this. The other cool thing are these next over allocation buttons. And as you click through these next over allocation buttons, it is going to take you right through the project to your next resource over allocation. Now, some people get caught up with what over allocation means. Now, it all depends on our max units. And the other area that we want to look for when we're taking a look at max units is when you're over in their view and you go into a resource view. In this case, we're going to go to a resource graph in this case. And here we are. And when you go to that resource graph and you take a look at our over allocations in this case, let me bring this out. Now you could scroll left and right, but you also can use this go to next button, which will bring us down, get out of there, into your next area. And I'm hitting the wrong one. There we are. And as you go through your different resources down here on the bottom, Emma Kate, Paula, etc., you'll see what you have considered as over allocation. Now, why did we bring this out? Because this is showing effort in hours. And what you need to understand is there's something called potentially peak units. And when you take a look at peak units in this case, this is where you can go in, and let me go back to my resource here. If you have an over allocation, it may just simply be because you have a task or multiple tasks that overlap each other in the same instance. So in this case, if Prasanna had to be on this call, being the moderator, but then on another call as well, he'd be over allocated. Even though it's just 1 hour over allocation, it would show Prasanna in this case being over allocated. So just a tip for you, make sure you're looking at either max units or your work when you take a look at over allocations. All right. Now let's get back to the other task inspector resource, slippage indicator. And what we've done is we've already created a graphical indicator. And if you'd like any of these files, just go ahead and reach out to us. We'll send them over to you, and you can go ahead and copy these or any of the other files that you want. Now we went through this together and we created this slippage, and we take a look at our formula here. Very simple. We have the finish variance there. And in our graphical indicators, as we open that up, I'll wait for everybody to catch up here. When we open up the graphical indicators, now you're going to see thresholds. Now, this is the part that might take you a little bit to go in and type all this information. Pause for effect, right? You don't need to do that. Right in this middle area, as you can see, these different thresholds, is the import indicator criteria. And you can go ahead and import from one project, meaning I'm going to take this graphical indicator and I'm going to import it from graphical indicator, and you can go ahead and pull it into a different project. Okay, so the whole thing comes up, goes in, and you have the entire graphical indicator, the threshold, all the good colors just by doing this import criteria. And the only thing you might want to do is make sure when you're pulling it in, okay, that you're actually looking, okay, at the date field or the finish variance or whatever you're pulling in. Make sure you're pulling the right thing. So in this case, if we're looking at, we happen to be in the graphical indicator, okay, and if you scroll down, you can see that it is the date slippage in this case. So very quickly, graphical indicators, create that view. For schedule, you could also, again, do some resource over allocations. You have it built in the box, the red person there, some other things. So as we get back and talk about the next techniques here, keep the questions coming. You can see that there's a few coming in, and we will progress into the planning and updates, but also the all-important schedule checklist. And the schedule checklist, when we take a look at that, we're going to be answering questions like, how do you set task complete? How do you remove all those silly constraints when you get a project from a different project manager or maybe a resource manager, and they might not be familiar with Microsoft Project, or they might just not know that they're setting different constraints. So, a very quick tip, had to talk about it, was how do you set a task complete? And that might seem really basic, right? And folks say, well, I'm going to use the checkbox. And other people say, I'm going to go in and put 100%. The true answer here, folks, is you want to go ahead and zero out remaining work. That is the best way to make the task 100% complete, both percent complete and work complete. And also for those friends that are on the line that do earn value, okay? That is going to keep the value, actual work there. So cost of work performed is going to remain the same. And you're not going to get the added benefit, if you will, or fictitious benefit of finishing all that remaining work that's out there. So a very detailed concept there. Again, do yourself a favor, enter in the remaining work column and make that 0. Next is how you prevent a task from being leveled. In this case, very straightforward. Some folks don't like leveling at a task level, so we'll be very quick on this. But some folks do, and others level across multiple projects in a master project. So you got a lot going on here for those folks that do level, okay? And in this case, what you're going to do is you set that priority all the way up to 1,000, and that task will not be leveled. Now, we were also asked, okay, great. So we have some people out there that are taking the latest. They might be even on project 2016. We have some folks that are on 2013, and within their organization, they have folks that are on 2007 or 2010. So this is a great slide that Microsoft had, and purposing it here. So all the credit goes to them here. But this is really nice to have. So if you're in one of those hybrid organizations that has different Microsoft project versions, take a screenshot of this or keep this printed out. Make sure that you understand all the pieces that get deprecated, as well as everything that's smooth sailing when you do that. A note for all those folks that are on the line, since you said, hey, you mentioned 2016, when you go ahead and install 2013 or 10, or 7 in that case, you can have multiple versions on your laptop. Now, you go to the other one, meaning 2016, that's no longer the case. Okay, so just beware when you're going on to the next versions, you got to be ready to, you're all in. Okay, now you always could remove it back, that is. Now, this is not a session on successful project scheduling, but the topic was advanced techniques around scheduling and resource management. So these are the 7 steps, and we have a class that we sit down and we go through all this, a full day class. What we're going to do is just highlight some of these areas and really the checklist part. So checklist 1 doesn't even need a slide. Check scope in there, right? All the WBS, put it all in there, even if you use the inactivate button to get it in. Step 2 is where we want to keep going from here. Step 2 is where you're going to go in there and remove hard-coded constraints. What are hard-coded constraints? Hard-coded constraints are on the left-hand side if you see a little calendar, or if you go in there and say finish date equals and you type in a date, what you're literally doing is your hard-coding constraint. There are 4 steps right there. We're going to walk through them together, but you want to highlight everything, go in, make it as soon as possible, get rid of those. Why do we want to do that? Because that's the only way you're going to have a true indication from start to finish, right? Again, scheduling, scheduling, scheduling. Orphans, we talked about that at the top of the hour, okay? Not little Annie in this case, but orphans are tasks that don't have any predecessors or successors. And the easiest place to see this for some may be in a Gantt chart. They look and they filter for successor and or predecessor blank. But the other visual, and I'm a visual kind of guy, is in the area of the network diagram. So when you're in the network diagram, you can actually take a look and see that information. So we're going to go in there and make sure that we highlight everything. And there's just some tricks here. Okay. So we're going to talk about zooming and seeing everything, or we'll do step by step. So you can actually follow along if you want to go ahead and open up one of your projects, all right, and go over to the network diagram. That's where we're going to start, okay? The next area is going to be in and around making sure that you have all estimates. Now, again, this may seem very elementary to some folks, but when you're talking about resource scheduling and resource management, you need to make sure that all hours, okay, are assigned to resources. So we're using that term expressly there. Assignment, marriage of a task and a resource is an assignment. So if it is in the unassigned, you have a task that's unassigned with effort, and we have a problem, okay? Folks that track labor cost, that's going to be a direct cost. Managing a client project, and there's 472 hours that you don't have assigned to a skill resource, well, typically there aren't going to be any labor cost to those. Now, sure, you can do fixed costs and some other things. You're not going to see that labor cost. And again, for all of our friends doing earned value management out there, not the best, okay? So we want to make sure that we have that. And then the assign resources, step 5, go through that pretty quickly. That's the next one. You can create a different scheduled check view. Again, if you want any of these views, we can send them over to you. But another area, that's just looking at a summary row and seeing if the resources are blank. It also can go in, which I like, is going into the resource usage view. You're going to hear a lot about resource usage today, as well as task usage view, a couple of my favorites when we're looking at some of this stuff. And then assigning resources. So when you go, or sorry, yes, assigning resources, getting into checklist, which would be leveling. Now leveling, I can hear the groans through the famous internet here. And a lot of folks have reservations about leveling. Leveling actually can be your friend. And I say, take a look at it. And resource management, how are you actually going to run these projects if your folks are over allocated? It's not going to show the true reality, okay? And then if you're doing that, what are your other project managers doing as well? So the true reality of the situation is definitely graver than just you over allocating some different resources. So again, crawl, walk, run, but really make sure you take a look at this and level appropriately. And you could always go to your executives or your managers and say, listen, we're not going to get this done because if we level these and we take off time constraint and we do resource, this thing's going to shoot way out to 2016. They're going to say that can't happen. Guys we always throw these projects at you and you always get them done. You say, yeah, but some holidays coming up here and I really want to get home with the family, so I can't really do these 40 70-hour weeks like I always do. So again, burnout. You don't want to do that burnout. And again, a little more of a personality coming through in our beliefs in running a company, but still have your folks work the time that they're going to do. And last item is baselining and publish. You folks have done this. This is more of an advanced session. However, we're going to tie some of all that in the next section to talk about when we add in scope or we add in different resources. How do you manage that? How do you see that? And what do you need to do with it? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into a demonstration. We're going to talk about the hard-coded constraints, and we're going to make sure we get rid of all those silly orphans, and we're going to talk about the make sure that we have tasks that are complete. And there's a quite delay, so as this comes up and we take a look at this, what we want to take a look at again is the network diagram. And I'm going to go ahead and open up another project. And what do we got? The software development project. Sure, this will be a good one. And as I open up this project, okay, just in a normal Gantt chart, Remember we talked about some of those reports and talk about resource management. Okay, as we start opening this up, take a look. This is just an overview report, but you folks can put any report that you want in here, okay, and see this information. And it's really good. And as we scroll down through all these different tasks, okay, this is just one simple report that you folks can see here and start to see that resource scaling. Again, this is just the over allocation potentially coming up in the future. But that's not why we're in here, but I did want to mention it while we open it up. So what we want to do is get rid of some hard-coded constraints and make sure we don't have any orphans. So network diagram. Take a look here. You can go and drop down. What I do is I take this quick access toolbar. Those that aren't familiar with quick access toolbar, go ahead and check out our blog, and we can create one of those, or just send over an email and we'll send you ours and save you the hassle. But here, if you go ahead and do a network diagram, and we apply the network diagram, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this view up here. Oh, do that one more time. And we take a look at the network diagram here. We're going to look at a few things. And there's going to be a whole heck of a lot, and I'm going to let it catch up for us. It's a squint chart, folks. You really can't determine what these are. Now, I'll truthfully ask you as we go around here, how many people use the network diagram? I thought so, okay? Not a lot of you. And for those folks that say, yeah, I use it all the time, you're in the minority, okay? It's a great view, okay? And hopefully after today, you're gonna realize, you resource managers out there, that this is a fantastic tool, project managers as well. So what are we looking at? A bunch of tasks. The X out ones here are completed. And as I take a look, I can hover over some of this. Now, what you're gonna take a look at here, let me just put it all back to normal. Oops, there, and we go to Zoom, and we come into something like this. So you're gonna come in here and you're gonna have a bunch of information, probably something that you're not even gonna be able to see or recognize. The steps that you wanna do, I'll do them slow, okay, is first of all, you wanna collapse your style, okay? So you go in, you right click on the network diagram, and you choose collapse boxes. What that's going to do is show you just little entities, and that's all that we want to do, all right? The next thing that we want to do is remove any of our summary tasks. Now, this is a good point to pause because this view, like a lot of project views, is what you see is what you get. So up here in the quick access toolbar, I want to make sure that I go ahead and select show all subtasks or all subtasks. And now what that's going to do is it's literally going to make sure that I can see everything so we don't have anything hidden. All right, so we'll do that together. Drop that down, select all subtasks. We can then, after you've collapsed and shown all, we typically go into is layout. And you want to go ahead and right click, click on layout, and then do the show summary task. Uncheck it. Summary tasks are those parallelograms, and you can get confused when you're taking a look at these little boxes. Okay, so when you go through here, this is what you want to do. Clear it all up. Go ahead and OK, and now look for our orphans. And you're going to note that down on the left-hand side, we have a couple boxes. So critical path. How is it going to be a critical path if we have multiple starts? How are we going to have it and start at one end if obviously we don't? So you want to go ahead and make sure that we tie in all these tasks when you're going through. That's one. But the other thing that we talked about here was going forward and seeing some of that information. So we're going to do that in a second. I'm going to leave this off here and queue us up for one of our second to last demonstrations. But while we do that, what I'm going to do is go back to the Gantt chart, and we're going to go ahead and remove all of our hard-coded constraints. So I'm clicking back on the Gantt chart, and I'm going to go ahead and select all, and I'm going to open up the task information. The select all button is in the top left-hand corner of the grid. It's a white cell. You can go ahead and click right there. It's going to select everything, and then you go up and you do your task information. And when you open up that task information, you want to go over to the advanced page, and then you have your constraint type. And you want to change that to either as soon as possible if you're starting from the start, or as late as possible if you're doing a backwards calculating method. And go ahead and select that and then hit OK. Now what I wanted to do here is I wanted you to note that the finish date right now is 9/29/2015. So last month, almost at the end of September. And when we go ahead and remove this, and I'll just move this down so you can see it. When I go ahead and remove this, the date is going to change, and it pushes out a couple weeks. So what we just did is we got rid of that snowbank. You know, we keep pushing and pushing and pushing all the work. There's going to be a mound of work that no one's going to be able to get done, okay? And it's not going to reflect reality. So this is a really good scheduling technique here to make sure that looking at other people's projects or you have projects, please don't go in there and set the finish date. Now folks are going to say, well, how do you set the finish date then if it really changed? Well, this is not on cue, but since I mentioned it, what you want to do is you can go in here and put in your actual start or your actual finish. Use those dates. So what I just did is I entered a column, created a column, inserted, and put my actual finish in. And that's the date you want to go in there and play with if you're changing the finish date, not the finish date, my friends. Okay, so what we did is we went in here and we got rid of our hard-coded constraints. We took a look at our orphan tasks. We would have linked them in, so now we have a nice, easy view to take a look at. And lastly, what we wanted to do here is confirm that all tasks have estimates. So we said you can do it within the Gantt chart. In interest of time, and my favorite, I'm going to go here to the view resource usage, and as you go up to the resource usage under unassigned, if you see any hours, and which I do, I see 56 hours as that catches up, then what you're going to do is you're going to miss those hours. You're going to miss the cost. They're not going to be on our resource reports. Our resource allocation is going to be off, all that good stuff. And in this case, 56 hours. It could be more, it could be less. But again, what we want to do is come in here. You can easily click on here, right? And go to information if you want to do it that way and get some information. Or if you go back, to the Gantt chart in this case, then you can go ahead and make your resource assignments. So we're cranking along here, and we only have about 5 or 7 more minutes. So I want to go ahead and make sure that we get through all the other techniques. Now, recognizing our new task and assessing related changes. This is where you want to make sure you track anything new that's going in the system. Say, sure, I track it. I put it in the system. I save it. I enter in actuals. I do all that great stuff, just like you were talking about. Well, I want to ask you, what do you do with new tasks, new scope that you put in there? Do you just key it all in and then off you go? How do you reflect what has been added and when it's been added? You folks can add a column in if you want to. That's called created. And then you can actually see when the task was created. So now you can see, hey, I can see 15 tasks that were created during that change request that was created on October 31st of 2015. And very quickly, you could start to see this. You can take that thought, and you can also set an interim plan. And those interim plans will snap the start, finish, and the duration, all these good, fun things, and put it into a column. That's all it is. So now you can see that column, and you can do that. So the 3 questions that I asked you were, what is the correct approach to entering additional scope? Okay, and then for a project that has already started, add new tasks, how do you go ahead and track it? Baseline, sorry, not the obvious question, but the tricky question here, obvious to someone that's listening here, is the baseline task, okay? And making sure You just do that task? Do you do the entire project? And folks should start scratching their head and say, we have a change request. I know it's going to be that new task or all those tasks. How do I figure out what those tasks are related to? And the answer here, folks, lies in right down the bottom. One of the great tools, okay, that literally should be a button, okay, and it's not yet, but we'll go off and create an app here soon, is hold shift and click the task button. Okay, and what that's going to do is it shows you that network diagram. Okay, and then you can go and do it. So I told you I was going to queue us up here, and we did. So let's go ahead and get back to our sample project, and then we can have one more technique here, and then we'll go into some Q&A. All right, so when we take a look, I just want to open everything up. We're going to go back over to the network diagram here, and we should be right back where we started, which we are. As that comes through, you're going to see a squint chart, a bunch of things on it. Okay, and as we start taking a look here, let's say we enter in develop code is a new task. Okay, I'm going to find that develop code here, right in here, and as I click on that, if I hold the shift key down and click on develop code, take a look, my friends, what we see now. So now we see everything that is related here, all the way down the chain, and that is what's going to be affected by the change in scope or the additional scope. Pretty cool, huh? So you don't have to look through your project plan. You don't have to figure out all the dependencies and everything. Go to the network diagram, click on the new scope, or let's say it's a whole section of scope. Go ahead and click on all of them, okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and randomly click around, okay? And hit the shift key. When you do that, it's gonna show everything that's related to those, okay? Really nice. Only halfway there. So we have the recognition. Now you're saying, okay, now I need to go through and remember all these numbers and go ahead and baseline it. That's crazy talk, right? So what we want to do is we want a baseline right from here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to set our baseline. We're going to do, in this case, you could set that interim plan if you really wanted to see it, but we're going to do selected tasks, okay? So you're going to do set baseline right from our quick access toolbar that we have here. We're going to we're going to do selected tasks, and then what we recommend in this case is roll those baselines up to the summary task level and the from subtask. And now what that's going to do is going to show you the true indication, okay, of your baseline. And isn't that cool? So that's what you're going to do. That's how you do a change request or any additional scope. Now I know that we're running down on time, and I'm going to borrow a couple minutes since we started and we'll end with some questions. And any of those questions that I don't get to, we'll answer in the forums or keep going. But I want to show you two more things. It'll be 2 more minutes, folks. So get those questions coming. Leverage the organizer. This again is a cool time-saving tip. Okay, what you want to do if you don't know the organizer is click on that button. Okay, if you can't find it, it's in the backstage area, but go find the organizer, and then on the left hand side you'd have a set of project information. On the right hand side you have your other. Click on the view and copy it. Click on the table and copy it. Click on the fields, okay, and do some nice work there. Reports, all that great stuff, right? I say, sorry, filters. Click on the filters, do things. We talked about the navigation and saving you time, okay? On the bottom, use that ribbon. Do your quick clicks. Create your quick access toolbar so you can do very quick and easy. Remember that you have a select all button that's not a button, but it's up top left, okay? It's that area up in the left area of a Gantt chart. And then I implore you to go through all of your settings. Make sure that the show project summary task is selected. So in project options, okay, area. Make sure that you have your show project summary task selected, some other good things, and that's what you want to be doing. So this is where we go through the quiz, and Sana, I'm going to switch it back over, make sure we have any questions, we'll answer them, and as we do that, we'll answer some of those questions that we had from our quiz. I know that you folks already asked the task inspector. How do you set a task to complete? Again, zero out that remaining work. Really key here of what you want to do. Two more. How do you view all tasks in your project that are affected by a new change request task or additional scope in your plan? Folks, that's what we just went over, okay? So you want to make sure you bring up that network diagram, you hold shift click on your tool, and it will show you that that network diagram, so you can go ahead and baseline or do whatever you'd like in that case. And then lastly, if folks level, how do you prevent a task from being leveled? In this case, it would be setting that to 1,000. Prasanna, we're at the end of the session. I did want to just bring up a couple offers that you folks might have heard me say. There is a resource management toolkit that we have out here. It goes through a lot of this, gives you some files, but it also gives you, for those folks that are on Project Server, again, there's a resource plan and resource analysis. We just did a session for Microsoft this Tuesday. So go out and get that recording. That talks about Project 16 with engagement management, but also 2010 and 2016 with resource planning and resource management. If you want any of that information, shoot us off over at info@ppmworks. And when we started, we had 3 or 4 stars around the customer immersion experience. This is a hands-on test drive. It's not a demonstration. You literally go in there and you folks are driving across the productivity tool set for Microsoft. It's amazing. Everything that people are talking about today, you folks get to use and look and understand. It's really cool. Whether you do it on site, oh, if you're interested, please reach out to us at cie@ppmworks.com. Prasanna?
Yes, I'm here. All right. So, thanks, Jakes, for that awesome presentation. People are finding our information very useful. So we do have some questions. So Sona Shah is asking, what happens when you set the task priority to 1,000 in a resource leveling scenario? And before you say it does not level the task, I tried answering that, but I think she's looking for what exactly happens in behind the scenes.
Yes. So actually, when you're doing leveling, and you open up leveling, first of all, you can level a couple different ways. So I answer your question with more of a statement, okay? You go to your leveling options in here. This is the answer that you're looking for. So when you come in here and you do your leveling and you clear, and you come down through here, this is the answer, okay? So I'm going to wait for it to catch up. Leveling options. So when you're going in there, yes, it's not going to level that. It's going to remove that. But take a look here. By ID only, by standard, by priority and standard. When you're doing priority leveling, okay, that's what the 1,000 is doing. And it's going to remove that task from any priority leveling. So you could do that across an entire stage and say, you know what? We need these resources up front. Do not level them. We need them. And then later on, we can level stuff and we can do everything. This stage, don't touch them when we're doing leveling. Good question. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Jakes. I think, let me see if there are other questions. Um, I think that was actually pretty much it. So
Okay, excellent.
So I think it was pretty informative. So you have comments that said saying that information is very useful. So more than questions.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I don't see the comments, but when I do, thank you all for attending on behalf of this project virtual conference team. I wanted to thank Prasanna, who's on the team, sure to help you. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, or good morning. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in the next session. And thank you, Jakes, for your time.